All right, so I wanted to go through all of the hex perks and actually suggest changes for the ones that need them to actually make them worthy of being hex perks. Now, hex perks are supposed to be glass cannons where they're super strong, maybe even oppressive and overpowered, but the fact is they're incredibly fragile, hence the term glass cannon. Now, Dead by Daylight has the glass aspect down in spades. These are some of the most RNG laden, like fragile perks on the planet. Survivor can spawn right in front of your Hex Ruin Totem, and then you don't have a perk for the entire game. So we're gonna go perk by perk, and we're gonna suggest changes to the ones that I think that need it.
All right, so up first is Hex Blood Favor from the Blight. This perk is absolutely fine. You injure a survivor within 32 meters. Every pallet that's standing up is blocked for 15 seconds. Literally a perfect god tier goated Hex perk. Wouldn't change a thing about it. Up next, we have Crowd Control from the Trickster. This one's got a few problems. So when a survivor performs a rushed vault, that's either a medium or a fast vault, hence the term rushed. The window's blocked by the entity. It applies to the last 5 vaults. So the problem with this perk is on a map like Gideon, the game, it's only got 5 vaults. So it's really decent perk on that map. But then you have Azarov's, and that map has 30, 40 windows, and it's just not as good. So I'd get rid of the window blocking entirely, and I'd make it to where anytime a survivor performs a rushed vault, they become injured. That is actually a perk that I find to be on level with Blood Favor and Devour Hope. And when a survivor who's injured vaults again, a rush vault again, they go into Deep Wound, and then they fast vault again, and they go into the dying state. So it gives them options. They're not guaranteed killed. If they do fast vault it while you're throwing a hatchet, then they will get double tapped, if you time it right. So it could be a very interesting perk and really pushes survivors away from windows and forces them more towards pallets, and could have some very good, very unique synergy with Blood Favor. So we'll go to Hex Devour Hope next from the Hag. This one I wouldn't change at all. I just kind of wanted to touch on why this is such a great perk. It does a lot of different little niche things, but it makes it overall powerful. It's got a 5-token system, the only Hex perk worthy of being a 5-token system. Basically, 2 hooks, you gain 5% haste for 10 seconds. 10 seconds after hooking a survivor. A little complex, it can sound like. 3 tokens, you're insta-downing survivors. 4 tokens, you're getting the haste and the insta-down still. 5 tokens, you're able to kill a survivor by your own hand, no matter their hook states. This is a god tier, great, well-built, just perfect perk around the board. It's got the RNG aspect, it's got the glass cannon aspect, and it's actually a cannon because you can kill survivors who've never been hooked before. It is very well done, and it encourages a healthy play style of going after different survivors with that haste when you're unhooking people. And you have to be 24 meters away from the unhook, so it kind of discourages tunneling in that regard, because if you're too close, you'll lose your token, and then you're shit out of luck. Very well done Hex perk, so I wouldn't change anything about that. Up next is Hex Huntress's Lullaby. This one is kind of a difficult one because it's very, very good against noobs and very, very bad against people who are really good. The only thing I would change about this one, you really can't change too much about it besides a full-blown rework because it's too volatile for new players. I remember the first time I went against this perk, like a week into my game of Dead by Daylight, and I ran into a Huntress who was using this perk, and I missed 14 skill checks in a row. And I was like, this is the most fucking overpowered, broken perk in the game. I fucking hate everything about this. How is this allowed? So, yeah, in the best interest of new people, I wouldn't change anything about it, except for the fact where it doesn't start lit up right away. Yes, you do have the 6% regression regression penalty when missing a skill check right away. So instead of 10% lost on a missed skill check, it's 16. But I still don't think it's worthy enough to make it lit right away. I think it should light up when it gets 3 tokens, basically. I think that's really the only way I'd change besides fully reworking it. Up next is Hex Nothing But Misery from the Ghoul. Did I say Lullaby was from Huntress? I think everybody knows that. But up next is Hex Nothing But Misery from the Ghoul. This one's pretty stupid. I mean, this is one of the worst Hex perks I have ever seen, ever. After you damage survivors 8 times with basic attacks, Adult Totem becomes a Hex Totem. Next time you damage a survivor with a basic attack, they gain 5% hindered for 15 seconds. So keep in mind, this was just a green add-on for the Huntress about 6 years ago, 5-6 years ago. You hit a survivor with a hatchet, they were 5% slower for 15 seconds. And then she had another add-on where they were 5% slower for 30 seconds. So this does not need the basic attack stipulation. There's no reason for it to be tied to basic attacks. Nor do you need to hit survivors 8 times. You could drop that. I wouldn't even have any at all. Honestly, you could drop it down to 2 or 4, maybe. Maybe drop it down to 2 so that way you're not getting it right away in your first chase. 4 max. There's no reason for it to be 8 seconds. Or 8 basic attacks. But yeah, that's absolutely insane. Then we got Hex Pentimento from the artist. This one's simple. You just revert it back to what it was. It is absolutely stupid how they nerfed it. You know, because it's 20% repair speed per totem that's rekindled instead of 33% repair speed penalty. And now it reveals its aura. If you have to create a stipulation where the Hex perk reveals itself to a survivor, you failed. You failed to make that Hex perk. That's on you. It's a failure on your part. You can already hear them crackling through walls, in case you didn't know. I think you have to be within 8 meters to hear that, but still, if you have to reveal its aura within a 16-meter range, no less, you failed and you need to rework the perk. Hex Thrill of the Hunt, I actually wouldn't do too much to change this. This is just a general perk. I would get rid of the remaining totems thing. Just make it a flat 40% slower, or what is it? 48% slower, I guess, because it's 12 per token, right? So whatever the total is, so a flat 48% no matter what. So if it goes from 16 seconds to cleanse up to 38 seconds to cleanse, because Thrill of the Hunt, every single totem should be 38 seconds to cleanse, and that would be fine. It doesn't need to... You shouldn't get punished more and more and more for losing the totems, in my opinion. So, yeah. Then we have Hex Toucan play from the good guy. This is also one of the worst Hex perks I have ever seen, ever. Anytime you're stunned or blind by any survivor 2 times, a dull totem becomes a Hex totem, and the next time you're stunned or blind, the survivor who did it to you is blinded for 1.5 seconds. This does not affect carried survivors. Oh, so that way if they get off your shoulder with DS, they don't get blinded. First of all, 1.5 seconds is nothing. You double that to 3 seconds, and I think you could make it to where every time a survivor stuns you twice, they become injured. So it has to be that specific survivor, and it has to be a pallet stun. If they keep blinding you, it's not going to do anything but blind them back. But if a survivor is just constantly pallet stunning you, it'll eventually injure them. So they stun you twice, you get injured. 2 can play, right? So yeah, Hex Undying from the Blight, perfectly fine. Wouldn't change anything about this at all. Maybe increase the aura reveal range on dull totems to like 6 to 8 meters. Other than that, I wouldn't change anything. If all the Hex perks stayed this week, you could honestly revert it back to its old Undying, where it would give Hex perks 5 lives. But if we did buff up the rest of the Hex perks, then you couldn't do that because that would just be way too insane. So, yeah. Then we'll go to Hex Haunted Ground from the Spirit. The interesting thing about this is I kind of wanted to go an entirely different route, a whole rework with it, and make it to where anytime this Hex perk is standing, any survivor who's exposed can be downed by any attack instantly. Meaning, if Hex Haunted Grounds is up and a survivor uses Shoulder the Burden and they become exposed, I can insta-down them with a hatchet. I can insta-down them if I land 8 knives as Trickster. So basically, it doesn't do anything at all on its own. It has to be used in tandem with exposure perks. I think that would be a really cool, maybe a way too overpowered, depending, you know, because what if, like, it gets to the end game, you have no it and you're one-shotting people with hatchets. That could be a problem. But then again, it's a Hex perk and it could be deleted immediately. So it's really hard to say. But yeah, if you didn't want to go that crazy of a route, you didn't want to do a full-blown rework, you could probably just increase the timer to 90 seconds. 60 seconds is a very low amount of time. I mean, Michael Myers can literally do that on command. His base timer is 60 seconds, and he can trigger it whenever he wants multiple times. So I don't see why this is tied to a Hex totem. Also, if you're just going to keep it as its normal 60 seconds of exposed, maybe give the killer 5% haste for the 60 seconds. Or, you could do that and then give it 2 totems. So it can activate 2 times in a match, possibly. And because obviously survivors are going to pop it. They're going to know, oh shit, we're exposed for 60 seconds. Let me be a little bit wary of any other totems because there could be a second Haunted Ground, right? Instead of having to use Undying. Then we got Hex, a third seal from the Hag. Hitting a survivor with a basic or special attack causes them to be blind, and it's permanent as long as the totem stands. This one's super simple. You just make it to where they're blinded and exhausted. So they can use their exhaustion perks before they're injured. Once they're injured, they'll see third seal, and they're blind and exhausted. And now they're in a situation. This would quickly become a very hard meta pick. You would have killers, almost all killers exclusively running third seal and undying. But I think survivors would very quickly realize that they can actually do good without relying on exhaustion perks. If they're constantly running into third seal and they're constantly being exhausted, if they really feel like they need their exhaustion perk, they can cleanse the totem. But some survivors who are good enough can just play around it. I think that would be a really good change, and again, makes it worthy of being a glass cannon. Because like I said, I've had this perk I've used it before for niche builds like on Pyramid Head, and the perk got wiped out before I could get all 4 tokens. It got wiped out at like 1 token, 2 tokens. So that's just the unfortunate downside of Hex Perks. So why not let it exhaust survivors too? Then you got Hex Noed. So this one's pretty much been unchanged entirely. 4% haste exposed, and then it reveals its aura within 4 meters, all the way up to 24 meters for 30 seconds. Again, it's a Hex perk. It's an in-game Hex perk. It should not be revealing its aura to survivors. It just shouldn't. Like I said, if you've done that, you failed. Maybe you could give it 2 totems if you really needed that big of a downside, but remove the aura revealing range and bump that haste up to 5%. And I think it pretty much stays unchanged otherwise. And then we got Hex Wretched Fate from the Dark Lord. After a generator is repaired, the Obsession suffers a 33% repair speed penalty. The totem's aura reveals itself to them within 12 meters. Again, a total failure of a design if you have to tell the survivor exactly where it's at. 12 meters is decently large, right? So I think you change this one to anytime a generator pops, a new survivor is affected by the 33%. So let's say you have 4 survivors, 1 generator pops, now 1 survivor is 33% slower. Second generator pops, second survivor. Now you have 2 survivors who are at 33% repair speed penalty and 2 who are not. Third generator pops, now you have 3 survivors who are at 33% repair speed penalty. So now that forces these survivors to get off gens and go find their totems, buying you extra slowdown. And then if you really need the self-reveal on the aura, which I think is overkill, you can make it like 4 meters, something, I don't know. But yeah, that way it actually forces survivors to go get off gens, find and cleanse their totems, instead of just 1 survivor who could find it instantly like I've done before and get rid of it immediately. So yeah. Then you got Hex Plaything from the Cenobite. I've changed nothing about this, honestly. Hex Plaything, maybe get rid of the aura reveal or have it to like 8 meters, 4 to 8 meters. But I think it is very smart that for the first 90 seconds, it can only be cleansed by the cursed survivor. I like that concept a lot. Honestly, I'm a big fan of it. And Oblivious can be super strong in certain situations, right? Really, when it's a permanent Oblivious, yes, I think that's when it's a lot better. So yeah, I wouldn't really change much about Plaything except for having that distance at least. But yeah, very strong, very underrated Hex perk, and definitely worthy of being a Hex perk in my opinion. Hex Retribution from the Deathslinger. This one is, I don't even know what to say about this one exactly. So any survivor interacting with a dollar Hex totem are oblivious for 60 seconds. Oblivious can be all right. 60 seconds just doesn't feel long enough in my opinion. You make it at least 90, right? Because you have to be interacting with the totem. If any Hex totem is removed, including this one, the auras of all survivors are revealed for 20 seconds. Now, the reason why 20 seconds for a Hex perk like this, neither of these are worthy at all of being Hex perks. Like 20 seconds of war reading is a lot, yes, but for a Hex perk, we should be talking 40, 50 seconds, because that'll allow you to get like 1 chase done entirely without any mind games, which would be very strong and worthy of being a Hex perk. But the problem is if you combine it with Hex Haunted Grounds, and then you have 50 seconds of aura reading, and then, like I proposed, a 5% haste and insta downing for 60 seconds, that would be brutal. I would probably do something to where it's 30 seconds of aura reading and then exhausted for 60 seconds instead of oblivious, or maybe exhausted and oblivious for 60 seconds, kind of like a mind breaker for hex and doll totems. So yeah, I just wanted to go through those, propose some changes, because a lot of the hex perks are not worthy of being hex perks at all whatsoever. And I just wanted to propose some ideas that will never get implemented, knowing behavior. But I just thought it was interesting and fun to talk about potential ways to buff these hex perks. Because, like I said, they got the glass part of the glass cannon down in spades. Very fragile perks, but they're just lacking the cannon. Like some of these are glass water pistols, dog. But my proposed change to hex crowd control is probably my favorite. Fast vaulting, medium vaulting, entering survivors. That would be a really dope hex perk. But yeah, that does it for this one. Let me know what you guys think of these hex perk changes, and let me know if you guys have any better ideas. That does it for this one. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, that good stuff. I'll see you guys on the next one.